Well, some new numbers show it's still anyone's game in New Hampshire. In fact, according to a poll conducted by WMUR and the University of New Hampshire, 44%, only 44%, have made up their minds who to vote for tomorrow. So anything really could happen. Joining me now, Patrick Griffin, a senior fellow at the New Hampshire Institute of Politics. So, Pat, you know, we keep on hearing that New Hampshire's a fickle state. There's always a surprise somewhere in an election. So what surprise are you looking for this time around?
Well, the big surprise generally is going to be if someone other than, Ron Paul right now sneaks into second place. In most of the polling we've seen, Congressman Paul is in second place. There really seems to be a battle going on for second. I think Mitt Romney is a foregone conclusion. The question is, as Gingrich and Santorum battle for sort of the conservative votes that are left, what happens to sort of independent voters, these voters that make about 41% of the New Hampshire electorate? I think that's kind of a, more than anything else, a Huntsman-Paul battle. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not the independents are more drawn to Dr. Paul or toward Governor Huntsman.
The independents in the live free or die state seems the right focus along with that slogan. We were talking with Jennifer Donahue of the Eisenhower Institute just at the beginning of this hour, and she said this. She said that Romney's mask is slipping. That's how she described it, that with New Hampshire's voters, his mask is slipping and Huntsman is resonating because he has, quote, clean hands. Would you agree with that?
Well, the problem is this is the Republican Party. This is a Republican primary. And when independents vote in it, let's remember, we Republicans tend to like our brands. We like our Doles. We like our McCains. We like our Bushes. And the fact of the matter is Mitt Romney's done this once before. It's sort of his turn. If we continue in that vein, I think Governor Romney's sort of held his own here. He's been the front runner for a long time. We can debate what a win is for him here. But if it's in the mid-30s or so, Mitt Romney sails out of here. I'm not sure about Governor Huntsman. Look, Governor Huntsman's been sort of through what we call the Occupy New Hampshire movement. He and his family have been here from the beginning. He's one of the only candidates to practice real retail politicking. This has not been a traditional New Hampshire primary campaign. So I'm not sure that's the case. John Huntsman's an interesting guy. He's a smart guy. He's trying to inspire people. I'm just not sure he's a terribly inspirational candidate.
That's interesting, the Occupy movement for John Huntsman. We haven't heard it put that way, Pat, and it's an interesting way to put it. I'm curious, when we see the polls, you mentioned Romney's way far out in front according to what we're seeing, and we keep on showing these polls after polls after polls, and I'm wondering what that does to turnout. If those who say that they're for him in the polls actually show up, considering he's so far ahead.
Yeah, complacency is the twist of fate in the New Hampshire primary. You want to go in with momentum, but you don't want to go in with arrogance. The key is not to make it look like you're definitely going to win, so voters stay home. I think Governor Romney is doing what usually happens to frontrunners. You start high and they chip away a little bit at your lead. He's still got a commanding enough lead that I still think he's the winner. I think it's enough of a win to make a validated victory out of this as he heads south. The question is who underneath that sort of gets in number two. If Ron Paul is the number two, that's not news. If John Huntsman is number two, that's big news.
I'm curious about what you said about Huntsman earlier, saying that, he doesn't really have maybe the inspiration, maybe the charisma that people want of a candidate. And we're seeing that the question of where the undecideds go repeated as we talk about issues heading into 2012. And I'm curious, Pat, do you think this conflicted feeling by the undecideds is really a GOP issue, or do you think it's a politics issue overall? Meaning, if this was a Democrat primary, we'd have the same problem because people just feel that way about the political system right now.
I think this is structural. Democrats find obscure governors from Arkansas, and they make them their nominee. They find, young, obscure African-American senators from Illinois and make them the nominee. Republicans don't work that way. I would bet right now that those independents who are left are possibly ones who are not looking for someone who is less conservative than Governor Romney, but more so. John Huntsman's going to have a hard time convincing people who want a true contrast to sort of go his way, I think, even though there's a lot of folks who feel like he's worked for and earned their vote. I'm not sure he translates that well because I think the brand generally has been a little undefined. Everybody is kind of a little unsure exactly what John Huntsman stands for. Smart, capable, speaks Chinese. The question is, does he turn that into votes.
That question of branding is such a good one, and we hope to have you back to talk more about it, because it looks like for all the GOP candidates, we keep on returning to that. We know that they're not President Obama, but what they actually stand for and what they will going into the general election is a bigger question, Pat. We really enjoyed having you on. Look forward to having you back.
Thank you, Jenny.
Fox News Alert.